Pokemon Masters, Noggin is BirdKeeper Toby here, and today I'm going to be discussing a phenomenon that has swept across all of the Pokemon fandom. In fact, you may have even been a part of it, and that is Pokemon variations. A Pokemon variation is a bit of fan art depicting how a Pokemon could look more like a set of subspecies in real life. Now there's going to be a lot of artwork in this video, and there will be links to everything and the artists in the description below, but it looks phenomenal. And when artists do this, you know, depicting a Cyndaquil that looks like a Mercargo, it's fascinating and it captures our imagination. And the truth is, it's very close to real life. I mean, it's no different to how there are different species of dog or cat. In fact, these images seem to suggest that Pokemon could have this same kind of variation.
That's right, and it's not just a fan theory. Pokemon have different appearances in-game depending on their location, like Arbok, whose hood sports a different design depending on whether it's from Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, or Sinnoh.
Oh, hey, TrueGreen, thanks for joining me. There's actually a lot to cover in this video, so your assistance is appreciated.
No problem at all, Toby. Since I just released a video on my channel about Pokememes and trends like Pokemon variations, it seemed like a good idea to come here and talk about it a little more in depth. For starters, Pokemon variations are not just exclusively a fan creation. Not only does it appear on Arbok, but shiny Pokemon would be an interesting case to look at as well. Another thing to note is that we already know how Archeops is probably the ancestor of all bird Pokemon. So perhaps if we expand our thinking, it would be the case that Granbull and Houndour are subspecies of the same Pokemon too, since they're both based off dogs. But then again, Granbull and Clefairy could be subspecies of the same undiscovered Pokemon, as they are both classified as the fairy Pokemon. Or maybe Garchomp may have evolved over time from Sharpedos. There's just so many ways you can look at this.
In nature, subspecies is a result of natural selection, different species dying off because different traits suit their lifestyle better. Except now there's human intervention and selective breeding. We can choose the best traits of a creature and breed specifically to get the shiniest coats, or the most spots, or the largest amount of meat on a creature. And in many cases, if you've ever Ivy bred a Pokemon, then that's exactly what this is. You're choosing the qualities that you want from two parent Pokemon and trying to make the child, the offspring, have that trait.
Now that is an interesting thought, which would suggest that in the natural Pokemon world, Pikachus that are faster and who can evade predators are more likely to survive. Eventually, you end up with two different groups, two subspecies of Pikachus. Ones with faster IVs that run more and look like this, and ones perhaps with higher defenses. Sorry, 90s Pikachu. Of course, that is nowhere near as exciting as the craze that has swept the Pokemon fandom. For the most part, fan designs are beautiful and interesting, and many cases look like brand new Pokemon altogether, like this Flygon that looks like a Yanmega, which has its basis in the real world too. This is a form of symbiotic evolution known as Bayesian mimicry, in which an animal manages to evolve to look like a more deadly animal to avoid being preyed on. In fact, I already theorized that this happens in the Pokemon world with Pokemon like Crawdaunt, who may have evolved to look like Sharpedo. So maybe there's still a subspecies of Crawdaunt that haven't evolved to look like Sharpedos from a distance. They would probably be on the brink of extinction.
Of course, if Pokemon did appear like this in-game, it would be so incredibly immersive. It would add a lot of complexity, and Game Freak, I can see, do try to add stuff like this in, with plenty of other Pokemon variations. Pichu briefly had a spiky ear, and Vivillon has a variety of different patterns. These could all be seen as different species. Burmy can evolve depending on its coats, and Basculin has two different looks. The best Pokemon of which that is an example of this is Shellos, which has evolved one way in the east and one way in the west. Imagine if Shellos looked different in Kanto or Johto, man, that'd be so cool. And personally, here's just some ideas for Pokemon variations that could be upcoming, like Voltorbs based on different Pokeballs, or Garbodor with different sets of trash in their body. In fact, you could have Gengars based on different belief systems, or Lampents that look like, well, different lamps. Cubones and Marowaks with different skulls depending on the enemies they've defeated, Rayquazas that look like different mythological dragons, Honedges based on different swords, or Klefkis with just different keys. The possibilities are so endless for this.
It seems that between forms, shinies, selective breeding, and alternative patterns, there is plenty in the Pokemon world that echoes the designs of fans. But truthfully, we would love to see more implemented in the game. So while we showcase some of our favorite designs, we'll leave a link on the screen to a video on my channel, which focuses on the many Pokemon memes and community creations which you may have been responsible for. So see you there! And don't forget that you can share your Pokemon variations with the Noggin crew by just tweeting at us.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by BirdKeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master!